Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast powered by Closers.io, where we dive into the journeys of visionary entrepreneurs and uncover the strategies driving their ventures forward. I'm your host, Mishal Saeed, and in each episode, we explore these stories behind innovative businesses, the challenges that they face, and their plans for future growth. Today, we're thrilled to have Carolina Selvidge, the founder and principal of FaceHug, joining us. Carolina brings extensive expertise in marketing communications with a focus on bilingual campaigns for English and Spanish markets, and she's built FaceHug into a client-centric consultancy offering strategic advertising, marketing, and media. We'll dive into her entrepreneurial journey, how FaceHug is empowering businesses in Dallas and beyond, and her vision for scaling her company and the FaceHug Foundation. So let's dive in. Carolina, welcome to Founders Future.
And let me start by saying that the way to pronounce my name is Carolina, and there's no way for you to know that unless I tell you, because it's spelled exactly how you would say it here in the United States. I am originally from Chile, and we speak what we call Castilian Spanish there, and that's the reason for the different pronunciation. But you said it beautifully anyways.
I thought the way you pronounced it was even more like eloquent and Carolina. Wow, that just rolls off the tongue so beautifully. Thank you for letting me know there. I'm excited to dive in. Let's kick things off for the listeners now. Take us back to the start. What was that specific problem or gap within the communications landscape that inspired you to launch FaceHug?
Many years ago, I was, for some reason, as I was listening to the local TV signal, basically, it's the access that we have to City Hall. I was listening to their city council meeting, and there was a small business person who was concerned about the fact that the remodeling of our local airport, the small airport, had already allocated space for the larger corporations for them to advertise. And he felt that the small businesses like him did not have that same opportunity, did not have the same location or the same amount of space. And right at that moment, I knew, I got up and I was like, I can help with that. I didn't know exactly what that meant, but I knew I could do it. And that's how it got started.
Amazing. I want to really now dive into your background. It's deeply rooted in advertising, media, bilingual marketing as well, with both markets, the US and the Spanish market. How did some of those experiences shape your decision to start FaceHug and focus on serving both the English and the Spanish markets, if you can share?
Our core offer basically is what we call certified communications. What that certified means is that our facilitator has the certifications to provide that information to our clients. We didn't make it up. We just didn't just come out with that one day to another. These are tools that has been proven and tested through time, and they're actually used by other very well-known organizations. So that is one. And those then translate into these three main key areas that take care of things like your productivity and your effectiveness or your confidence, your credibility through all these assessments. And then those assessments are tailored specifically to the needs of each client because not everyone needs all. So you shouldn't be using all your time, all your investment in solving everything, just what you need for that next step. And hopefully maybe in a year after there's something else you need, you're welcome to come back. You don't need to start from scratch.
Love that. So let's walk through that customer journey and what that looks like, Carolina. When someone comes through and you're looking to craft custom sort of customized assessment or delivery for them, what do those outcomes look like? Let's start from the top. You can even use maybe like an example of like your ICP. Take us from the beginning and if you can map that customer journey for the listeners, I'm sure that will give us a bigger picture on really what the outcomes are and what does success look like for you as someone joins FaceHug Academy.
Sure. So we have two ways in which that first contact may happen. It could be, as you were mentioning, a company who is looking for soft landing, which is those that are willing or looking to enter the US market, or companies that are already in the United States but would like to improve the setting of their people. And that's where we incorporate everything that we were just talking about, the assessments, teamwork, and that sort of thing. So in that first contact, we let them know everything, that may apply to their concern or their needs. And from there, then we specifically give a blueprint of what is it that we think would be most beneficial for them in their particular case. And that is exactly how our system is made, is flexible for each client.
Now, in terms of the outcomes, right? Let's say after 90 days or like 6 months, what are the outcomes? What are some of those client wins that typically someone will see after they exit FaceHug Academy? And feel free to maybe share a notable testimonial or someone you worked with where you were able to achieve such remarkable results.
Right now, we have in our business model 3 ways in which this could be initially applied. So we have the speaking business, where we get to talk about all these topics and create that awareness where people know that this is out there, these services and products. Now, if from there's a group, whether a leader wants to bring this to their department, or for some reason a specific team has a specific project they would like to prepare for, then we have the training. And in that training, they go deeper into these specific topics. Now, from that training, there might be people who are looking to work even more and get those talents out there serving their team, or there's something else that they want to bring out in themselves. We have the mentoring. So in these 3 areas, within, say, a month, we have a program actually that is called, and it has the tagline, in a month, achieve all these things in a month. That is a companion material that goes with the mentoring, for example. So all these 3 goes with its own material. In the training, in 6 weeks, you can actually accomplish the ability to affect for the positive your effectiveness with people, your efficiency with people, in things you can actually apply on a day-to-day basis.
Love that. Yeah. So it looks like a lot of the principles, the strategies, those lessons are, like you said, best, they're applicable not just professionally, but also personally. And then they can take some of those things and apply it later on if they want to even start their own ventures, which is like really great. It's very customizable. From what it sounds like, you really sit down, you do the assessment, you create the blueprint, and it's not cookie cutter. Everything is really shaped and molded to the clientele that you're working with at that time. Now, it really is interesting too, because we've interviewed a few guests that have run very similar offers, very customized consulting assessments to really garner those results. And they found it tough to scale without sacrificing the quality. I'm curious, how have you thought about scaling your offerings while still keeping it manageable and effective?
Something that we have done recently is to add the speaking component. So under that light, the first duty for us is to find that perfect thing that works, that we can replicate when it's including the speaking piece of it. So we have the coaching, we have the one-on-one mentoring. So in order to scale, basically what is required is that awareness at this stage for us. And that awareness is the one that is going to give us the opportunity to eventually scale.
Okay. Let's say we're looking at acquisition, right? You have a great offering and it sounds like you're really able to get the right results and outcomes for clients. Let's dive into the nuts and bolts of the acquisition side of it. How are you currently acquiring some of your customers between both markets? Which channels have been working the best? Has it been LinkedIn, referrals, your network in Dallas, maybe even paid ad strategy as well? What's been the most effective for landing clients for marketing or consulting services?
One of the things that I do is to share those testimonials. I have, for example, a very experienced college professor in a science department, as a matter of fact, that was surprised after years of teaching how he was not aware, he had never discovered, he didn't know the exact reason why he wasn't getting along better with his own graduate students. And once we worked together, he found alternative ways in which to reach his audience, which is obviously his graduate class. So by using these experiences and sharing these experiences, you can show prospect clients what is it that they can expect for themselves when it applies, obviously, to them. So I pick those testimonials to share with them. Now, in terms of advertising itself, because right now, as we added the speaking component, we are working on the awareness of people to learn. That's something we do now. Paid advertising doesn't work if you don't know what is it that you're promoting. So the first thing that needs to come out of this is exactly what is the message that people are going to think about, that is going to say, okay, this is something that might help me, and only then move on to the paid advertising. So what I'm doing right now really is social media, and I'm focusing on LinkedIn. That's what I'm doing. So a couple of days a week, I not only publish, but I engage, whether it's in groups or other people in my space. And the rest maybe of that same day is to create the content that will go in those publications.
Love that. So from what it sounds like, you're leveraging a lot of that social proof, right? Those client wins, those testimonials, which we were talking about, and really repurposing a lot of that into content to really post online and create more of that problem awareness, right? First in your potential audience, and then looking at what the paid ad strategy would look like, right? Once you have enough people that are aware about who you are, what you do, what problems they might have in terms of communication and marketing, then it makes sense to go into the ad side of things if that clicks.
That's right.
Got it. I'd love to learn a little bit now about your approach to sales. What are some of those strategies that have worked best to convert someone that does come through on LinkedIn into an actual long-term client? And whether that is even through direct outreach, partnerships, maybe even events. Are you also handling sales like on your own, or do you have a team involved in some of these conversations?
I have a team of two. I obviously am the one who is the spokesperson to say for our services, but I do need and I do use the financial support. And I would recommend that for anyone who is a solopreneur like myself. So in terms of what was the other half of your question?
Yeah, so from what it sounds like, you have a team in place. You have two
Oh,
individuals.
the sales
Yeah.
and marketing. Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. So what happens with somebody like me, if you have people, you usually have the time, each one dedicated to what their specific duties are. But when you're a solopreneur, you need to structure your time and basically literally change those hats and dedicate specific amount of time during a day, a week into these specific activities. So half of my activity will go to say the actual content, whether it is the delivery, doing the keynote speaking, doing the coaching, doing the mentoring, the training. And the other part is sales and marketing. And in the sales and marketing, I'll say is half and half. Most of it should go to sales always, because you need to go and reach out. So the way I used to do it, which I think is the way most of us used to do it, was to send this bulk email using lists and that sort of thing. But with AI, that completely changed. Now it's so much. People don't open those. So I've basically gone to just doing manually. I actually go make the call and find out whether we are a good fit, which makes it a little bit more specific. Like you need to go and talk to actual people, and some of them return the call, some of them might not. I always get some sort of answer though. Now, the good thing for the speaking business is that once you get a no or not this year, or maybe not that topic for right now, you always can come back next year because of the way the industry works. So just being able to make that contact is huge, is very important for us.
Absolutely. Now, from what it sounds like, you're doing some outreach right now. You're the one getting on the phone, reaching out, finding out more about, hey, let's see if there is like an opportunity to work together. What does the conversation look like after that? Let's say someone does say, hey, I want to have a conversation. I want to find out more about whether this is going to be a good fit. Take us through what your process looks like in terms of having a consultation with a prospect. And then also, if you can also share a little bit about maybe some of the setbacks and challenges you've seen just within your market. I'm sure for our listeners, they'll be able to get some insight as well as to what you're seeing, right? And it creates that relatedness.
One of the challenges that we were just talking is to have people, they're so overwhelmed with offers right now, and there's so much that they can find literally online that could solve, or they think they might solve the initial parts of their situation. That is the first thing that it needs to be solved in that first contact, which is how much are you willing to do for that prospect? How much are you willing to invest in them to make it not only a great service and not only give them a great product, but also a great experience. And that's where some of these things might take a little bit of more time, maybe, and very specific dedication to that prospect. Once we have established that rapport where we can know each other and really understand what they're trying to solve. Because many times people think they want to solve something. For example, I have people that say, okay, I have this problem. I think I want to know my personality, or I want to understand the personality of my team because we're having a lot of friction. Who knows? Maybe that is not the issue. Maybe the issue you're having is a cultural situation that needs to be resolved. And you think it's personality, or by the way, is the opposite. I've had people that say, okay, I have a cultural problem because people come from different places. When in reality, no, culture was never an issue. It was always a personality thing. We can tell you that because we have the tools to make that comparison and tell you, okay, is this and not that. So once we have established exactly what is it that needs to be resolved, it might not be exactly what the prospect is thinking. We make sure that we're solving the problem for them, though. We don't tell them what to do, they tell us, right? But in that conversation, we show them how to get there in a way that is hopefully permanent, that is a long-term solution and not just a patch.
Yeah, so I love the fact that you're leveraging a lot of use case and almost like presenting a lot of those half-baked ideas within that initial consultation, and that value is already up front. They're not having to like wait until they're a client of yours necessarily to get a lot of that insight. You're painting the picture from what it sounds like. You're creating that implementation right off the bat. And I can assume that's what builds the trust with some of your clients and anyone who comes across FaceHug Academy, which is wonderful. Tell us a little bit about the roles of two of those other team members. Are they involved more with the outreach, or also are they having similar conversations as yourself with some of the prospects that do come in and they want to find out what are some of the things we can solve imminently within the business?
It has to do more than anything, and I'm sure that everyone who has a talent or who has something that they do to offer, they need someone who knows about the financials around it. So one of the things I always say to people who are just starting is get a business coach. Get somebody who knows about business, because many times what happens is that we think that because of what we have is so valuable and so useful, that is going to be enough. But it's not. The business side of any activity is what makes you do what you want to do. There's an inner workings of how things can be sustainable. And that is the part, those are the conversations we have. So for me, it requires me to take that hat of the creator or of the facilitator, the coach, the speaker, the mentor, and having to put on the hat of the business. And the conversations are basically around exactly how you started this call, which is, what are the goals? What can they get in 6 weeks, in a month? What is the client who's going to be their takeaway after working with you? And how much is that going to cost? So it basically comes down on how much, and we're always trying to put as much as we can into our clients, which is how much we can help them, how much we can offer, all the help that they might need to make them successful, to make them get where they want to go.
Wow, that's incredible. No, there's definitely that genuine authenticity, and I can see it already with really wanting to help your clients, really help them grow and evolve. And even if it's not imminent, that opportunity later down the line, but they're getting, like I said previously, the value up front. Now, the growth has been exciting. And you've tapped into acquisition, you've tapped into sales, you know exactly how to approach conversations with anyone who comes across FaceHug Academy. For the listeners, then some of the entrepreneurs that are looking to still establish their footing within their founding journey, if you can share like a bottleneck that stands out, what would it be? Is it finding the right leads, improving conversions, scaling on the fulfillment side? What are you most focused on solving to keep up with all of this momentum?
I would say that the lead generation, for sure, when you are integrating something new, which in our case is the speaking side of it, we are known for its other things, but few people know us as having the speaker component. So the lead generation for that specific piece is very important. And that's where we're trying to work on right now and reach out to either recruiters, organizers, even organizations that host this type of events where they are looking for and need speakers for their audiences. Basically, number one. Now, for the audience that might be listening and they have already resolved that, the next thing then is that transformation, right? To be able to convert that experience. In our case, we're talking about the speaking, right? You have the keynote, you did your presentation, and then how many of those you can then make them into a training session? That is the piece where we're working at as well. How we can get from that audience a group interested enough into working in the training and getting their teams and their group even more knowledgeable about these topics. And then from there, obviously moving to the mentoring, which will be the one-on-one.
Okay, got it. So from what it sounds like, you're looking at other ways essentially to increase acquisition. How can we actually get in front of the masses and actually like show them the messaging, show them exactly what we offer in the trainings, and then get them in through that process, still tapping into that. And I know for some of the listeners, some of them right now, they're also going in that direction. They're trying to see, hey, how can I really start to scale my acquisition in that sense? How can I start to really create more of that brand awareness through some of those speaking engagements, like you said? No, it all sounds super exciting, and I'm super excited to see how you start to approach this going into this year as well. Now, on that note, with everything you've accomplished, would love to learn a little bit about what's top of mind for growing FaceHug over the next 6 to 12 months. What are you focused on as you go into this year? What are some of those top goals as you start to scale?
One of the things that I was actually talking about this very morning was these two options that the speakers have in terms of the online speaking industry and the in-person speaking industry. So those two, in my case, work. The thing is that which one to pursue first, or whether we should go with both of them and see what comes out of it. That's where we are. So for the next 12, 18 months, that's going to be the work to be able to open the doors in both areas and see which one fills up first.
Got it. Yeah. So really seeing where you can see the most success, whether it is online or in person with some of those engagements, and seeing where a lot of that traction comes from. I love that. Now, I want to get a bit hypothetical, and I ask every guest that hops on, if you had unlimited resources for FaceHug Academy and you had a genie and you rub the lamp and poof, he appears, and now there's all these like unlimited resources, like I said, what would you implement immediately to accelerate the growth of FaceHug today?
I would for sure have somebody that could clone me. I would dedicate the entire time to just reach out and expand that sales cycle to get it working permanently. And now it's possible. I know many people do it because we have the technology to do it now 24/7. I prefer to take this other route for right now, but that I think will be something that would definitely make an impact in terms of the velocity, like how quickly this would happen, to get more awareness and therefore more leads and therefore more conversions.
Yeah, absolutely. So, really creating more of that gap, right, within your prospect's journey, making more of that problem awareness be apparent to where it's almost seamless for them to want to be a part of the trainings and want to work with you, right, rather than having to shift a lot of that mindset from the beginning. People don't know what they don't know, right? And you probably know this as well, right? Love the fact that you're thinking about a lot of these pieces already. And I'm sure that's going to help a lot with scaling and creating a system that works. And you are so wonderful yourself. So cloning yourself, I could only imagine how much the success of FaceHug would explode if there were two of you, hopefully. Now, I really want to ask one last question since we're in the lightning round. How do you see the bilingual marketing and consulting industry evolving in the coming years, especially with your focus on both the English and Spanish speaking markets? How is FaceHug positioning itself for that type of future?
One of the things to remember that we are a boutique communication company for communication projects and communication people whom I want to work with, which is one of the reasons that I haven't gone all 24/7 automated, because I want to be able to offer that quality. So I'm more interested in having 10 good clients permanently than having 100, because then I can serve them myself and I can serve them better. So under that light, that is exactly the way that I am right now growing basically this operation is client by client. In terms of the bilingual aspect, our days, if you need to translate something, any of us can go do it, and you just get an app and do it for you. Now, there's another component that has to do with the culture, and there's where we come in. That is our positioning. It is one thing to know a language or to know the foods of a place or to know the history of a place. It's another to understand the culture, because most of culture is subject, is like underneath the unconscious part of us. I don't want to get all technical about it, but I want to make my point that this is important and makes a difference. You can read a book about a place and know everything about it. It doesn't mean that you know how you operate within that culture. And that's what businesses need. That's what business people need, because they need to operate in the ground with the people wherever they're going to open their business or make their offers. And that's what makes us different.
Love that. Yeah. So much just wisdom right there from you on leveraging automation, really utilizing the tools online to really create that accessibility. And you're clearly doing so with both markets. Now, I know I said I had one last question, but I really want to now ask as well, what's like the best piece of advice you can give to some of these founders that are just starting out, especially those that are launching client-centric businesses in very competitive markets like yours, especially in Dallas?
There was a moment in which I thought I was throwing the towel. I thought I had tried everything or done everything or gone as far as I could. And I started to forget about it in a way, saying, okay, this is the best that is going to be.
Yeah.
And then at some point, I started thinking about the people that I could help. Before that, it was like I could help anybody. I could help everybody.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I started thinking about that professional, that office professional, the people that usually do not get coaching, people who, for whatever reason, do not get the access to all this mentoring and training for their own careers, for their own work, for their own jobs. And I was like, I can help that person. That I would see somebody, I could help that, I could help her, I could totally help him. So I would be telling this to myself every time I would be running into people, and I'm like, look at all the people that you could help. And that made me come back and rethink what I was doing. And here we are. It was the fact that I could identify exactly who I was working for or who I was trying to help and was trying to train or trying to share all of these things that I've learned through training, through studying, through certification degrees and life experience as a bilingual person living in a foreign country and then had to work inside a corporation, for example. There's so much there. And the rest is history. After that, I was like, okay, I know what I'm doing now.
Wow. I'm so moved, and I know our listeners tuning in, they are as well. Keep going, be consistent. Don't throw that towel in. Carolina, you're a prime example of that. And look where you are today. You're getting on stages soon. You're going to be doing some more speaking engagements. You're going to start creating a lot more of that brand awareness. And you really have inspired some of those listeners that probably are on the verge of quitting, or they know, hey, I can maybe go back to my job. Thanks for being vulnerable and candid and really sharing that, because you're living proof of what success looks like in that sense. Love that. Now, on that note, that wraps up another inspiring episode of Founders Future. A huge thank you for Carolina for sharing her incredible journey and insights with us today. Thank you so much for coming on. To our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, subscribe to Founders Future on your favorite podcast platform, Spotify and Apple. If you would like to get in touch with FaceHug Academy, specifically working with Carolina, we'll link her LinkedIn profile in the summary below. And you can also find some more resources at closers.io, where we help businesses scale through trained appointment setters and world-class sales systems. Until next time, keep pushing forward, and we will see you all on the next one.